This is our DC39 Dyson vacuum cleaner. It's right now up to 6 years old and it just quit working. And yeah, there's no video really what shows us how to totally disassemble it. And that's why I just take this video now, then you can troubleshoot it yourself, what's going on with your Dyson. They're going still between $400 and $600, so it's worth looking at it. So what kind of tools you need is basically just a Phillips screwdriver, a flathead, some needle nose pliers, and a Torx, which is a T15. Pretty cheap, you can buy those anywhere, but I needed also a solid Torx screwdriver because some of the mount holes on the bottom of that housing are quite deep, so this one doesn't fit in there, so you need some solid screwdriver T15. So yeah, what you first do of course is then the filter assembly, the dust collector here. You take that off with the normal gray button, take that off, put it aside. Then you take the ears off. They're pretty easy, just one screw right there, and they have some bearings in here and they're just mounted on here on the side to rotate in case you bump into things with your vacuum cleaner. And just put those aside. They're pretty handy as screw collectors. There's some tapered mounts here. They basically hold those ears. You don't need to take those off. So yeah, then let's start. First, on the bottom there is 1, 2, 3, 4 screws for that wheelbase. This you want to take off first. I have taken the screws out already, and yeah, let me see here. So this is pretty easy, just put that aside. So, and then we are left with the ball. So, and then on the bottom, that's where you need the T15 screwdriver. They come all in here, they're quite deep. So I took them all out, and then you can take basically the bottom of the housing off, and you see then already the motor and an internal filter, which is not part of the maintenance. This filter you don't need to replace. That is just really to make sure that this motor runs cleanly with no dust, etc. So, and then it became already a little tricky. You have to be careful not to, because the motor is heavy and it could pull you on those wires, so that you don't pull those off or rip them or something. So, and then it became a little tricky, and I'll show you how to do this. There's two little lips here. They basically hold that release mechanism, and you really have to get a flathead in here and ply that a little bit to pop that out, and then you can just open it, and there's two hidden screws in here to get that top part of the housing off. So, and when you do release or like remove those screws, then you can just easily, oh yeah, there's also here on the side like little clips you have to release. That's where the housing or the sub housing here is clipped into that shell. So, and then you should be able to just to remove that part. Buttons got stuck. So it's pretty much not much to it when you found those two screws, which took me a while. And then I heard something fall in here. That's probably the spring for that button. That's for the cable, and this is the on and off button. So this is then the whole assembly, motor, and then this whole area here, which I assume there might be a control board on there or some electronics that can cause the vacuum not coming on. There you can see then the wires coming into that switch here. It's a separate little switch, and then the wire goes in here into that plastic body, which I show you how to remove all this. So first off, you find here this little switch. There's the needle nose pliers come in handy, so you remove those. And then this switch is pretty easy to remove as well. There's like some plastic clips on there. So, and that's just a little on and off switch, which can be faulty. But I measured it with just an ohm meter, and this switch is still okay, so that's not the fault. So put that aside. So then the black wire goes directly here, and the white wire has this little extra black box here, and I was excited. I thought it's maybe a fuse. That could be my problem. But when you just open it, it's not a fuse at all. It is just basically just a little box that holds another connection here. That's just to disassemble or disconnect the motor completely. So then the needle nose pliers come handy, just to, because they're pretty tight. And get this off. There you go. So, and that is so. Is down here, so, and you can get this all out. This is the motor, and it has some rubber pieces on here to just eliminate the vibration. And this housing also, when you just want to see the troubleshoot the motor, you can take this cap off here. It's on the side, just three little prongs here. You can just release it, and then go directly to the motor. So this one, don't lose the rubber pieces. And then there's more rubber pieces in here. They just eliminate vibration. So, and that motor comes out right here. Looks like this. Be careful with the wires that you don't bend or break anything. So that's the only part where you need a Phillips screwdriver, because those are the brushes for the motor. Left and right side, just two brushes, and they could cause a fault too. So here's Phillips screws in here. So in my case, that wasn't a fault, but I just show you how they should operate. It's just one screw, two brushes, like I said, and you can just remove those. That's how the brush looks like. That's very long and spring-loaded. So those can break off, or something can happen with the spring internally here. They're pretty easy to replace. You can find them on Amazon or some other sources. But they look pretty good. So that's how they should look like. It should work. I clean them off a little here, but if you don't see a lot of carbon dust around here, it's actually a good indicator that those brushes are in working condition and good. So, like I said, this vacuum is 6 years old, and I was pretty surprised how good the brushes still looked. So it's just a plug and play. You just put them in there, no wire, nothing. Tighten the screw back up. Like I said, two of these, and you can buy them as a pair for roughly $17. So then of course I thought, like, maybe it's the motor that causes the vacuum not to work, but I hooked it up to 115 volts and it was working. So the motor is not the problem, on-off switch is not the problem. So now we keep on looking. So put that one back together. What we could do is just measure the resistance, and then you can measure it right away if your motor is good or not, if you don't have a possibility to hook it up to 115 volts. So now we have it both disconnected. Here's a little wire guide here. You fish those wires through, and there's a little grommet here on the side. You just have to gently pull on it, and then this motor comes apart, or comes loose, and this is the whole motor assembly. Let's check what the resistance is. So, because when you have a different resistance, or you measure even an open, then you know that some of the windings are faulty or burnt or whatever. So not really an ohm value at all. So I mean, it's just basically wire connected, it's just the windings in there, so there's 18 ohms on there. So that's what you should measure, and you know that your motor is okay. So put that one aside. So now comes the very tricky part, because I didn't know if there was any control boards in here or anything that can burn or cause the fault. And yeah, first off, I just get rid of all the wires here. There's like those little guide clips, they're installed. So, and then is it also very tricky right now to disassemble that. What you have to do is give it a slight little twist on that white part, and then it should be able to be removed. There you go. Because there's a mechanism in there, right there you see those little grooves, and that's how they lock in place. So the whole filter assembly you can just now put aside. So, and then we have just the internal wiring, and then the supply voltage line, which you just get off to not mess with the spring load mechanism here, because it's winding and spring loaded. And you have 3 screws here I removed already to hold that ring in place. And here you see those little 2 lips that basically lock into the filter assembly on top. So that is the trick with the remover. So now there's a spring in here somewhere, so you have to be careful. Normally they just totally jump on you, and this DC39 actually has a very interesting spring mechanism, which is, show you in a second. So you can just pull this, rotate it a little, and the whole wire spool comes off, but it's still hooked to, where are we now here? So yeah. So here you go. So then carefully remove here the spring. So what is the good thing about this? It's kind of like a donor spool right here. It's basically, there's the spring on it, and while you twist the whole thing, this one goes around this area. So basically it's a detached or a second spool that actually is very maintenance friendly, because it doesn't just jump on you and you have to manually rewind it for several minutes. So 1 screw, and this one is attached. Take that off. It has like a little plastic washer on there and a screw. So you can put this aside, and then simply just put the spring back into position, and then it's, for the assembly, really simple. You basically just hook this hole onto this little piece here, and then just give it 1 or 2 twists before you assemble it. So now this is also a little wire guide, and that needs to come off to investigate a little further. So there's a little trick required. It has here 2 lips, left and right side, and then it's also mounted on the bottom here. So what I did was just, because you're always scared to break it with the plastic stuff, give it a little ply on the side, and then it just comes off. Hold on, just show you here. So like removed it right there, and then you can just pull it off, and the wires of course hold it back. But that's how it looks. So basically that lip goes in first and then it clips on top too. So this is out of the way, and then we can just remove the whole center plus the wires. So there's now multiple things that can be wrong here. I have seen some of other Dyson videos where those wires break here, so they are just connected to those little springs, which are just sliding contacts for those rings, so they can they just apply the 115 volt while this can spin. So what I did here is just measure connectivity from the plug to those springs, and the white cable had no connectivity, so there was a broken wire somewhere along the line. But I cleaned this off, bent those a little back, so then you have a good connection when you reassemble it again, and then clean this off here slightly, but not too aggressively, because there's a conductive grease on there. You want that to leave on, but if they have any carbon build up or whatnot, then just clean that off. So it looks like this, and it's good enough. So I had it then all apart, so I didn't find any mistakes here. So the terminals and the connections were good. The wiring looked good too, but I still had no contact to my plug, and the root cause of mine is just that original Dyson plug. So within the plug here, there's the cable broken, so that was the main fault. So I shouldn't even have done all this, so it was just here, but since I figured everything out, and I haven't seen a video to do that, I thought I just might help you guys out with that to save $400 to $600. Yeah, that's all about it. So you have to then just assemble it in reverse, and then you're good to go. So hopefully that helps you, and good luck with your Dyson. Like I said, it was a DC39, so you can find that here on the ID sticker, where what kind of model you have, but this is like they're still selling these. So yeah, I hope that helped a little, and then yeah, good luck. Thank you.